Hi. This week, for week 12, I want to talk about Elizabeth Kubler-Ross and stress. And I don't know if you've heard of her or not, but she's affected all of us, all of our lives in America, even if you had not heard of her. Kubler-Ross, she was born in Switzerland and educated as a psychiatrist at the University of Zurich in 1957. And she was born as one of triplet sisters. She had worked for International Voluntary Service for Peace in 1945. That was post World War II. And she had helped ravaged communities recover from damage suffered during the war. And she discovered when she entered in some concentration camps, she would find artifacts on the walls. Say, for example, some prisoners had drawn butterflies on a wall, and it was like symbolic of transforming and certainly transforming the conditions they were imprisoned in, and that was always meaningful to her. Later in life, a hospice center in Arizona was named in her honor, the Butterfly Center, after that metaphor she had discovered. She came to the United States in 1958, and she worked in hospitals in New York and the state of Colorado and in Chicago. And what she learned was that people who were dying, just in general, were not treated very well. People tend to shun them or abuse them. And so she made it her life's work, that made the dying her life's work. And in 1969, she published a groundbreaking book entitled On Death and Dying. And it changed the way Americans deal with death, including today. And it also led to the foundation of hospice. Her model was that there was 5 stages that people experience in response to death. And the first stage was denial, and then followed by, it's like this not really happening to me. The diagnosis can't be correct. And then later anger is like, why me? And just being mad about it. And then bargaining. So say, for example, when facing with death, people would bargain with God, hey, please God, let me survive this, and if so, I will do this in return. So they're trying to bargain their way out. And then depression, they just kind of give up. And then finally acceptance of their conditions, where they move on with it. As I said, her work started the hospice organization. And also they later discovered, when faced with significant change, people tend to experience these 5 stages in moving to acceptance around change, especially forced change. For example, a lot of people following the financial collapse of 2008 were forced into this because they lost jobs or lost their homes. Their circumstances changed, and they went through those 5 stages. Kubler-Ross said people are like stained glass windows. They sparkle and shine when the sun is out, but when the darkness sets in, their true beauty is revealed only if there is a light within. In his book From Good to Great, Jim Collins describes the Stockdale paradox, and it was based upon the experience and attitude of Admiral Jim Stockdale, who was a prisoner of war during the Vietnam War. And Stockdale, he was an incredible person that a lot of prisoners had attributed him for keeping them alive while they were in prison. Stockdale was in prison for 8 years, and it was in the worst conditions possible. I guess there was one time the communists had planned to shoot a propaganda video using Stockdale because he was the highest ranking prisoner, and basically the theme of the video was going to be that they were treating Americans well. And when Stockdale found this out, all he had in his cell was a wooden stool with 3 legs, and he'd taken that stool and had beat himself around his face and all the visible parts of his body, so he was bruised and cut. So when they came to get him for the video, they were not able to use him because he looks like someone who had been beaten. They said that they used to put prisoners in solitary isolation for long periods of time. And so Stockdale had worked out this tapping code with the prisoners so that if they were put in solitary confinement, they could use this tapping code to communicate with others. And Stockdale was often put in solitary confinement because of his rank. Said the first time after he taught him the code and he was put in confinement, he heard the other prisoners tapping the code, and their message was, "We love you, Admiral Stockdale." So when Collins was interviewing Stockdale, he asked Stockdale, hey, you must have really been an optimist to live through all of the worst conditions possible and survive. And Stockdale said, "Oh no," he said, "the optimists, they died." He said, they would say, "Well, the 4th of July is coming up and we'll be out of here," and the 4th of July would come, and then they would say, well, Thanksgiving's coming, we'll be out of here, and then Thanksgiving would come, and then they'd say, well, Christmas is coming, we'll be out of here, then Christmas would come. He said they died of a broken heart. And so Collins says, well, what was your attitude? What kind of attitude did you have to get through this? And Stockdale told him, he said, well, you had to have the attitude that every day you knew you woke up, you had to face your harsh reality, whatever that was going to be. And in the back of your mind, you had to have the belief that in the end you would persevere and eventually you would make it home. And so Collins called this the Stockdale paradox. And so the Stockdale paradox can be helpful for people when they're facing forced change. There might be parts of it that are okay, but there's usually parts of it that are not okay as well. And that becomes their harsh reality. So if they wake up, face their harsh reality, take it head on, and then in the back of their mind have the belief that in the end they will persevere and they will win. That can get them through the hard parts of change. Kubler-Ross, eventually she became elderly and she became ill herself. She had a debilitating stroke and suffered for 2 years as a result of the stroke. She once told a reporter, she said, for 15 hours a day I sit in this chair totally dependent on someone else coming in here to make me a cup of tea. It's neither living nor dying. It's stuck in the middle. And then she went on to say, with death impending, she said, I'm like a plane that has left the gate and not taken off. I would rather go back to the gate or simply fly away. And her life ended at age 78, and she changed the way Americans deal with death. She introduced hospice, which has been a real benefit to a lot of people and a lot of families to get them through death of family members, and she influenced Americans. We've got quite a few references on this, and they're all attached as part of the transcript. Thanks.